should be spinning just a little bit. JD got more in the Weather Center.
Yeah, so we are now hearing that even though, again, they're not in the warning of this polygon, there is now a ground stop at Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport due to the strong winds that are moving into this area. And the other thing that, we're looking at is there's not a lot of lightning with this line as it's pushing in, but there's still a lot of energy that's moving through, and Hartsfield right here. So it's just outside of that polygon there, but a ground stop there. If you have any flights, any travel plans today, let's go ahead and just check with the airlines before you move in, because I guarantee this ground stop's going to cause some issues there. If we can pull up Max 4, I do want to show the tornado safety diagram because it has been a while since we've had a tornado warning. So let's go ahead and show you. For tornado safety, you want to find the most interior room on the lowest level floor of your home. And what that means is you're going to be wanting to try and find, in this particular instance, you want this closet here. You want the hallway, the stairwell. You don't want a room that has a wall on the outside. So that's why the living room, kitchen, bedroom, garage, not the most ideal thing for you. Also, you definitely don't want the deck. You don't want to be outside there. So the bathroom works here because even though it's on the exterior wall, it also has no windows. So that's the other thing. If you have no interior space, let's say you do have a dwelling where everything is on the exterior wall, you want to find the room that doesn't have a window there. And I know it sounds counterintuitive, but if you live in a mobile or a manufactured home, there is no safe space in that. You'll need to find another building to rush to that is much more sturdy, or in the worst case scenario, believe it or not, just lying face down in a ditch is more safe than staying in your mobile or manufactured home. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but it's like, that thing starts to flip over. It's like being in a car in a rollover accident. There's nothing there that's going to help you stay safe. So we'll go back to the radar, and we'll show you that this particular cell is still continuing to move off towards the east. So rotation's really kind of back here. Whitesburg, you're in the clear. For the most part, Carroll County, except for the extreme eastern portion in Douglas and Coweta, where all that comes together, you're pretty much in the clear. And then it's now starting to make South Fulton and Coweta the main areas that we're concerned with. So this is going to slide off to the east. Palmetto, we're talking 11:19. You have 9 minutes to get to your safe space. Go ahead and do it now. You can see now that they have extended the southern edge of this as a severe thunderstorm warning. So again, this is why we stress to you, even if you're not in the polygon, if you're out and ahead of it, there are still other threats that we're looking with. And I can guarantee you by the way this is shipped up, this is for winds that are going to continue to slide off towards the east. So remember we told you, Fayette County, you weren't in the warning? Well, now you are. It's not tornado, it's severe thunderstorms, some very strong winds. So for Sonoy, Fayetteville, Grantville, Hogansville, LaGrange, over in towards Meriwether County, now extending into far west Spalding County. This is where this line is going to continue heading as we head into the next hour or so. And most of this is moving off towards the east at 50 miles per hour. So I'm going to slide over here. I've got a computer off to the side just to see. They are still seeing evidence of debris being lofted in the atmosphere. So they're going to keep this tornado warning going. So that's telling us that the circulation in the atmosphere is still strong enough to keep whatever was ripped up from the ground and sucked up into the storm aloft, meaning it hasn't actually fallen to the ground yet. I'm going to take a look and see where, yep, there it is. Still here. So that's one of two things. Again, that is debris being lofted into the atmosphere from earlier, or it's still debris being ripped up and sucked into the storm. So we could still have an ongoing tornado warning, and that's why the National Weather Service is going to keep this going. Notice, I really just want to say Palmetto, anybody in Palmetto, that's obviously a heavier populated area. Get to your safe space now. We still have confirmation of debris in the atmosphere, and it's pretty much, as I kind of go back in time a little bit here, it's pretty much making a beeline, because if you kind of take the split of those two towards Palmetto. So that is kind of concerning here. Definitely want to get into your safe spot. Again, we'll kind of switch it back here just a moment, because this is what you're all used to. And this is what I also want to emphasize. Palmetto is right here on the leading edge of this line. The debris that we're tracking is back here. So it's not always the leading edge of this system. So that's why you have to get to your safe space as quickly as possible. Because look at this, you have some green behind Palmetto. You may see the rain and the wind lighten up briefly. It will not be over. There is more heavy rain and that potential rotation on the backside of the system. So don't let that initial lull kind of give you a false sense of security. More is coming in behind it. Again, though, I do want to emphasize Whitesburg, Carroll County, western Coweta County is out. Noonan, you're getting smacked pretty hard by some heavy rain and some gusty winds, but the strongest winds have pushed through your area. And then we're going to continue to watch all of this now slide off towards the east. So again, I do want to say Tyrone, Fairburn, Union City, not in the warning now, but if they decide to extend it, you will be in the warning. So go ahead and start making those preparations in case you do need to move very quickly to your safe space. I'm going to go ahead and turn it back to Isaac. We have a good tower cam. We do have a good traffic camera here in Coweta County showing the rain and the wind that's pushing through.
Yeah, this is at Highway 34 at State Highway 16 and US 27 alternate JD. Again, we have water in the intersection here. Doesn't look like it's flooded here, but that's kind of a two-pronged thing that we're dealing with today, flooding as well as this tornado potential here. So that's something, if you know anybody traveling in these areas that we're calling out near Palmetto, very close to Tyrone, northern Coweta County, they do not need to be on the roads. That's the last place you need to be. JD went over the safest place to be, and that is in the lowest floor of a site-built structure, not in a car. So we'll go back to the radar, and I just want to point out again, as JD mentioned, there's a ground stop at the airport, which is right here, just to the south side of town, of course. And I'm still seeing some signs here of some gusty and potentially strengthening winds in southwest Fulton County that may be pushing closer to the airport. So again, safety always a priority, and they're preemptively doing that ground stop at the airport, even though it is bone dry there at the time being. The tornado warning expires in 1 more minute here, but again, we're still seeing signs of a circulation here.
I'm going to let it expire.
Okay, so they're going to issue something that's going to continue to say that a tornado might be possible here as we kind of zoom things out just a little bit here. Again, this entire line, very wavy in nature, and basically what we are looking for today is a line segment that's oriented from top to bottom or north to south. That is the atmosphere kind of telling us that that's where the most likely chance to see another one of these brief spin-up tornadoes. We have a lot of wind shear in the atmosphere today. Thankfully, not a lot of instability or energy for storms, but we have just enough to cause maybe another one of these brief touchdowns that we probably saw in southeastern Carroll County that kind of lingered into northern Coweta County. Again, the tornado warning officially expires, but this larger severe thunderstorm warning does continue for Fayette County, for Coweta County, and then down toward Troup and Meriwether County. That does include LaGrange for winds of 50 to 60 miles per hour. But if we see another spin-up tornado, it's going to be, I think, in southwestern Fulton County or northeastern Coweta County, close to Peachtree City, or far western Fayette County. That's where the line of the storms is more oriented north to south. And that's what I'll be watching here for the next few minutes as we kind of move forward. Again, in the city of Atlanta, things are still fine, but on the west side of the perimeter, things are deteriorating. We have heavy rain and gusty winds and storms moving in on the west side of the perimeter, not quite to 285 yet, but it's getting closer to us. Douglasville getting pounded with heavy rain and storms, and then to the north, we have Cobb County getting quite a bit of heavy rain activity as well. And I want to look at the bigger picture view for you as well. And again, we have other storms in the Georgia mountains, not severe, but we have several counties under flash flood warnings for several more hours, and we have seen between 3 and 6 inches of rain already falling from yesterday, from last night, and now this morning. Thankfully, this line is moving pretty quickly. I want to put it into motion kind of as we look at the bigger picture, and you can see things are moving fairly quickly off to the east. So again, we are not going to have to deal with this all day. This is a very short, relatively short fused severe weather event here. I think by 1 or 2 o'clock at the latest, all of these storms will be out of here. And again, we don't expect constant tornado warnings, but I do expect maybe a few more thunderstorm warnings because of the fact that we do still have quite a bit of, again, wind energy in the atmosphere. And it doesn't take much to bring some of that higher wind aloft down to the surface. We've seen a couple of reports of trees down so far in West Georgia. We had many more reports of trees down with this line back in Alabama. And chances are we'll see more reports as we move forward in the next couple of hours as this moves into a little bit more of a populated area. Hopefully we don't have too many power outages. JD mentioned we have the lightning turned on, and the worst lightning is actually in the Georgia mountains, not with the most severe part of this line of really showers, very limited lightning and thunder here. Again, that tells us that the atmosphere is not super charged up for big storms today, but it is just enough to cause for concern. So we'll kind of go back into the part of the line here where I'm kind of watching the winds a little bit more and where the worst of the wind is. And again, this is where the rotation detector or the wind detector is, and where you see the red very close to Palmetto, that's where the strongest winds are. So right over the town and city of Palmetto, moving toward Union City and Fairburn and Tyrone here. This is where Fulton, Coweta, and Fayette counties all come together, and that's where some of the worst wind is likely to be. This is where winds could be over 50 to 60 miles per hour, which of course could cause some tree and power line damage. But thankfully, the tornado warning has expired. We did see, again, what was likely a brief touchdown west of Whitesburg in Carroll County that may have lingered a bit into northern portions of Coweta County, but thankfully things look a little bit less intense from the tornado standpoint. But again, up in northern Fulton County, Dunwoody, Roswell, Johns Creek, and Alpharetta, very, very heavy rain. Nobody needs to be driving in these areas just for the fact that the weather's nasty, as well as a lot of heavy rain like this can add up very quickly in urban areas, which could cause some flooding very quickly as well. So that's the reason the flood watch was issued yesterday. We've had a big heads up to this active weather day. We expected this days ago, and it's finally here. And thankfully, this is going to be the only really busy weather day that we have in the next week or so. But we certainly still have quite a bit of ways to go before we get this line of storms out. If you live in East Georgia, it's been all quiet all morning, but this line is going to affect you in Athens, in Covington, in Griffin, and Eatonton eventually. But will it be as strong as it is now? That is unlikely, but something that we're going to continue to watch here. JD and the Weather Center are kind of watching things as well with me this morning, and hopefully things begin to tame a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. I've been kind of looking at things in the background here. Not a lot of information coming out of the National Weather Service right now, but that's actually good news here. I will say, let's go ahead and I want to take it to Max 4 to kind of give you an idea of what's going on right now. So if you look outdoors at the moment, this is Midtown. This is actually looking away from the storm, but you can see how quickly these clouds are moving in behind it. And then I'm going to switch the camera over real quick so you can see this is the airport that's going to be sliding on in. And this is where, looking to the southeast, so keep in mind, you will see planes moving, but these are flights that are kind of reorganizing, and there is a ground stop in effect right now for Hartsfield because of this cell. So this is looking southwest from the airport back over towards, the terminal here. You can see the Southwest planes and the Delta planes there, but very dark clouds and a lot of wind with this particular system as it continues to slide on into the airport region. Again, they're not in the warning, but still causing some significant delays. They do have what's called a special weather statement that's in effect for that area. What that's telling us is that there's inclement weather. It's not severe, but it's definitely going to affect things at the ground, and certainly exactly what they're going to see at the airport. So now that we've seen what it looks like in real life, let's put the radar back up there. That's going to give us the opportunity to kind of track out and see exactly where things are going. All of this is with this low pressure and this cold front that's sweeping across the southeast right now. The beauty of that is this is not going to last all afternoon. When this front slides through, we're done. We're going to see the skies slowly begin to clear out, and then the temperatures are going to drop as we head into the rest of the day. So that is some good news there. Meanwhile, we're going to continue to watch. I want to go back down towards this cell. Just past through Noonan. Noonan, you are now in the clear. The heaviest of the storms have pushed through your area. I'm going to put the tracker back on. I'm going to put it a little bit ahead of it because it's moving super quickly right now. And it is moving very quickly, almost about 50 miles an hour. So Sonoya, you're looking at 1126. Stars Mill High School, 1127. Fayetteville, 1129. Brooks, we're going to be looking at 1132. Same for about Woolsey, 1138 and Lovejoy. Greenville, Hampton. Now, these later cities are not in the warning. Hampton, not in the warning. Henry County, not in the warning. But this is a strong enough storm that even if they drop the warning, you are going to continue to watch and see this line move to the east and bring some very heavy gusty winds. And for a lot of folks, one of the things we want to emphasize is even if you're not in a warning, there's still some very gusty winds on the north edge of this. And where we've had the rain over the course of the past several days, the ground is very saturated. And it looks like, if that wind moves through, we could see a little bit more trees down in those areas just because the ground is saturated from the rain over the past 18 to 24 hours. So kind of keep that in mind. Now let's go ahead and take a look. I'm going to look at this about the same time you are. So power outages, there are plenty. They're very low in the counties that they are affecting, but they are still there. So, for a place like Gwinnett County, we are looking at less than 1,000 people without power right now. So that's some great news right there. Less than 200 customers there. In Fulton, we're looking at 600 customers, 600 in Cherokee County. Carrollton is 1,500. That's where we did have the signature, that radar dropout. So that doesn't surprise me that we'd see a little bit higher here. This is where we did have the radar confirmed debris in the atmosphere. So the good news is, even though plenty of counties are seeing sporadic power outages, it's not a lot of them, relatively speaking, to the number of people in those counties. So that's some great news there. But overall, this is just kind of a volatile day. We are in a level 2 out of 5 risk for folks along the Alabama-Georgia state line. Once you get into Metro Atlanta, for the most part, it's a level 1 of 5. But this just goes to show you don't need a high number risk. It doesn't have to be a 3, a 4, or 5 for you to get warnings in here that can cause some significant damage. Ooh, I like that tower cam. Let's take that full.
Yeah, so this is the building, of course, on the north side, JD, and it looks like, obviously, we're looking south, and things are coming in from the right-hand side of the screen, and thankfully not so many cars, but it's Atlanta on a Saturday. We can't ask everybody to be home and weather aware, but this is something that you certainly don't want to be caught in. Again, this is part of the line, not severe, but we're watching this closely, and again, it looks pretty nasty out there, and it's about to get nastier in the city before it gets better. As JD mentioned, this line moving very quickly. There is a severe thunderstorm warning for areas south of Atlanta, but this could be severe to you. It certainly could be something that you don't want to be caught out in, and I'll throw it back to JD. He was continuing to watch all this entire line, but right now we're kind of looking at areas of Fayette County, I think, if something were to spin back up again.
Right. So, and the good news is that's not what we're seeing on velocity right now. So as we zoom in just a bit, the other thing that's kind of, and we note this a lot, actually, it seems like the last 2 or 3 times I've done cut-ins, which granted, it's been a while. It was last year in March. But the closer these things get to the radar, the harder it is for us to see it, because the radar beam is coming from here, just south of Peachtree City and Falcon Field. The radar beam is maybe 30 feet above the ground at that point. You're not really getting a lot. So obviously it's kind of tilted. It's not looking up. It's tilted up in the atmosphere. So the farther away you go, the higher up you're looking. So once you get towards Luthersville, Williamson, Hampton, Lovejoy, you get a better idea of what's going on at those levels where we can see development and rotation. But right here, just right here where you see these kind of circle rings, it's actually really hard to. So not getting a great look right now. Peachtree City has a few other tools that they use, but the good news is they're not indicating that rotation is continuing on with this particular cell as well. So, that's one of the things where, and the other thing is when you zoom in, obviously you can see this little circle here over the radar. So we're not going to get data in that point. But it'll also, when we get very heavy rain over the radar, can start to kind of influence how it looks, because it'll start to manipulate the data just a bit. So we're going to have to kind of take it with a grain of salt over the next 5-10 minutes. But the one thing that we can tell you, when you go from red to green really quickly like that, you can see it's almost a thin line, just a few pixels between the green and the red. That means some very strong gusty winds are with this line, and that's the reason the severe thunderstorm warning has been issued. Again, Peachtree City, you're taking it on the head right now. Fayetteville, Sonoy, Brooks, Luthersville, all headed your way in the next 5 minutes or less. In fact, Luthersville, this is pretty much on top of you with some very strong gusty winds. Again, not a tornado warning, but treat it like it is. Stay away from windows with this storm. Stay away from the exterior walls of your home. That's just not something that you want to be near right now. So again, this severe thunderstorm warning is extending from Fayette County all the way back down to the Alabama state line. So it's a very large warning. It's a very fast moving system. Every time we get a radar update, even this zoomed in, you can see this inch a lot over. And that just goes to show how quickly the cell is moving through. And part of that movement is also helping to fuel the wind. As fast as the storm is moving, it kind of mixes in. If the storm is moving in the same direction the winds are pushing out, It's a cumulative factor. So you're going to get stronger winds because of that with the storm that's tapping into the stronger winds above. Because that's essentially what, Isaac, what this cell is. There are stronger winds aloft in the atmosphere, and the storm motion, the vertical, the downward motions, is tapping into that and just shoving it to the
helping
surface.
to tug some of that higher wind down, JD, for sure. And he mentioned that circle where nothing's happening, it's still raining at the Peachtree City office, the Weather Service radar right here. And there are still some gusty winds right at the radar. I was looking at another product off camera, and very close to the radar site, just south of Peachtree City, I was still seeing winds of about 50 plus. And again, the reason the thunderstorm warning continues, again, right now we're going to have what looks to be maybe not so strong of a line, as JD mentioned. That's called radar attenuation, and the radar doesn't see things quite as well. But once it moves over the radar site, we'll be getting a better picture once again and that's what we'll be kind of watching for. But again, the chance for severe weather will be over as soon as this line passes you. So I want to give you some all clears if you live in Douglas County, if you live in Carroll County, Polk County, Haralson County, Floyd County, Chattooga County, you're clear. Heard County even, the line has passed you and you are in the all clear. Not quite for Coweta County yet. The line is over Sharpsburg, very close to Peachtree City, moving off to the east. That's going to affect all of Fayette County in the next 15 to 30 minutes. And then now starting to move into the perimeter. So we're now seeing this line of storms inside of the western wall of the perimeter, and that's going to be moving right into the Midtown and downtown Atlanta areas in the next few minutes. Thankfully, the winds here are sub-severe, but still could gust of around 40 miles per hour, maybe at worst. That's maybe the worst case scenario, and hopefully they don't get any stronger than this. But the air outside of this line, to the advance of this line, we could still see a brief spin-up tornado. It's not completely out of the question. That's the reason that we have a level 1 risk across the entire area. But we knew going into today, the best chance of something happening from a tornado standpoint and a severe weather standpoint basically was from Atlanta west. But we still don't want anybody to let their guard down farther eastward. It hasn't rained or stormed yet in most of Gwinnett County, all of East Georgia, staying nice and dry as well. But again, things are continuing to trend in a positive-ish direction. We say that cautiously optimistic because, again, with the amount of wind shear that we have in the atmosphere today, it's hard to discount completely. Things might be weakening. We do have a lightning strike or two finally showing up in Atlanta. Again, some nasty weather moving in, and JD's got a pretty nasty camera on the north side of town.
Yeah, so here's the Atlantic Station camera right now. So this is located about 17th Street, just on the north end of the connector, right near the Brookwood interchange. And you can see here's, well, maybe you can't. Mercedes-Benz Stadium is right here. As we make our way in towards downtown, and then eventually the Midtown skyline starts to pop in there, you can see the dry, warm air ahead of this system right here. Bright sunny skies, quick gradient into the heavy rain that's starting to fall behind it. I do want to emphasize Fulton County, at least from Atlanta, actually none of Fulton County, I'm looking at the updated warning. None of Fulton County is in the severe thunderstorm warning, but heavy winds and rain are about to rocket right through the heart of downtown into the Midtown area, and they're going to continue to slide over towards Decatur, in towards the Stone Mountain area, Lithonia, as we go into the next 20, 30 minutes or so. So again, we do want to emphasize for a lot of folks, this is what you're seeing outside right now. The good news is a lot of us aren't in the warnings, but even those who are not in the warnings, we've had these, we call them special weather statements. They don't pop up on the radar, but they give us behind the scenes a good idea of exactly what's going on in the cell. So this one right here, severe? No. 30, 35 mile an hour winds? Yes. That's not severe. You need 58 or higher to be a severe thunderstorm, or you need to have quarter-sized hail or higher. So that's one thing that we're going to be continuing to look for. The other thing, we're starting to see lightning now make its way into the northern part of the metro. So some of these storms starting to fire up a little bit, but as we saw down towards the south, as we're seeing right now, you don't need lightning to be a severe thunderstorm. In fact, this entire line from Fayette County all the way back down to LaGrange, not one lightning strike with this. You don't need lightning to be a severe thunderstorm. You just need the wind or the hail or a tornado. And at that point, you'd have the tornado warning triggered like we did earlier for portions of Carroll and Coweta and Fulton counties. But we're all going to continue to watch this as we head throughout the rest of the day. We're going to continue to watch and monitor what this cell is going to be doing as we go throughout the afternoon, because again, it's not just the wind. It's not just the rain. Actually, that's what I was going to get into. It is the rain, heavy rain continuing. I mean, look at the map behind me. Actually, look at the map behind Isaac, because you can see it a little bit better. It's a little bit more larger. But Isaac, we have all those flash flood warnings off to the north.
Yeah, Bartow County, JD, Cherokee County, portions of Pickens County, as well as Dawson and Lumpkin counties. And that goes for several more hours, the flash flood warnings up there, because the rain has been non-stop up there for several hours. I want to put on the rain accumulation over the last 24 hours and to kind of look at some totals up and through here. And you can see portions of Dawson County getting over 4 inches of rain. And we see similar totals, several reports in the National Weather Service chat from different emergency managers across North and West Georgia reporting rain gauges of at least 3+ inches of rain, which again, thankfully, I say thankfully, we have been in a little bit of a dry spell, in fact, a lot of a dry spell, so the ground able to take a lot of that, but it's been raining in North Georgia since yesterday. And that's the reason that the ground simply can't hold any more water. And now we're starting to see all these flood warnings and flash flood warnings pop up. We haven't had any flooding just yet in Metro Atlanta. However, with this activity beginning to push into the city here, we've got some really, really rough weather right now, right over the downtown connector from Buckhead through downtown Atlanta down to the airport again. Air traffic with the ground stop probably briefly going to be disrupted here as this line moves through. Winds of 30 to 40 miles per hour, but in the city of Atlanta, there's no imminent severe weather concern. We still have that severe thunderstorm warning to the south of town for areas along and southeast of this line. So if you live in Peachtree City even, we're done with severe weather there. This line's going to continue affecting Fayette County as well as areas of Troup and Meriwether counties in the next few minutes. Also a pinch of Pike and Upson County included here too. But we may see more severe thunderstorm warnings issue with this line, but the chances of a tornado warning happening again are small but not zero. Flash flooding continues in the mountains. Line of storms right now moving through Metro Atlanta. Meteorologist J.D. Dishron and I will continue to be with you throughout the rest of the morning and into the afternoon. And if you have any additional weather updates or need any additional weather updates, the First Alert Weather app is your best resource. So for J.D., I'm meteorologist Isaac Williams. We'll send it back to programming.
Budgeting feels restrictive. Spending plan, I think that's what you're getting at.
Yeah,
Spending
I'm just
plan
giving you
feels
old school
like,
words over here. You know, like I'm still giving you old school words. We got to make sure that we do not overspend what we make. You know, that's the basis of it. But